There are some experiences that just defy explanation. Voices that aren't your own, speaking from inside you, knowing things you have no way of knowing. A darkness that feels like it's consuming your soul. For centuries, we've called it demonic possession. But are these the real-life struggles of humanity against supernatural evil? Or are they the terrifying final stages of a mind at war with itself? Today, we're looking at the true stories that will haunt you, where the line between possession and psychology becomes terrifyingly blurred. The idea of an outside force taking control of a human body is a primal fear, woven into our cultures and religions for thousands of years. We see it in ancient texts and modern horror themes. But when you strip away the Hollywood fiction, you're left with documented accounts of real people, real families, and real suffering. The dark side of possession isn't just about supernatural terror. It's a complex and often tragic world of trauma, mental illness, and devastating real-world consequences. Today, we'll explore two of the most harrowing cases on record. We'll journey through the supernatural claims, but also anchor ourselves in the documented psychological and medical realities. The question we have to ask isn't just, are demons real? But rather, where does the true horror of these stories lie? Our first case takes us to Klingenberg, Germany, in the 1970s, and the tragic story of Anneliese Michel. Before her name became synonymous with one of the most horrifying possession cases in modern history, Anneliese was a bright, deeply religious young woman from a devout Catholic family. Her life seemed ordinary until 1968, when, at 16, she had a severe convulsion. This was the start of a long and terrifying descent. Initially, doctors diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy. She was put on medication and admitted to a psychiatric hospital. But the treatments didn't work. Her condition only got worse. By the time she was 20, Anneliese started complaining of hearing voices that told her she was damned and would rot in hell. She began seeing what she described as devil faces throughout her day. Her depression deepened, and she became increasingly intolerant of religious objects she once treasured, like crucifixes. Over the next 5 years, her health fell apart, both medically and, in her family's eyes, spiritually. Despite being on various psychiatric medications, her behavior grew more extreme. Accounts from her family and the priests who later got involved describe shocking acts. She would eat spiders and coal, drink her own urine, and compulsively do hundreds of squats a day until her knee ligaments ruptured. She would bark like a dog for days and tear at her own clothes. Convinced that 5 years of psychiatric care had failed and that their daughter was suffering from a demonic affliction, the Michel family turned away from medicine and toward the church. They appealed for an exorcism. While their first requests were denied by priests who recommended she continue medical treatment, their persistence eventually paid off. In 1975, 2 priests got permission from the local bishop to perform the rite of exorcism. What followed was an ordeal that lasted for 10 agonizing months. 67 separate exorcism rites were performed on Anneliese Michel. During these sessions, she allegedly spoke in multiple deep guttural voices, claiming to be possessed by several demons, including figures like Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, and Hitler. These rites were grueling. As the exorcisms went on, Anneliese stopped eating, believing the demons wouldn't allow it. Her body wasted away. On July 1st, 1976, Anneliese Michel died in her home. She was 23 years old. The official cause of death was severe malnutrition and dehydration. At the time of her death, she weighed only 68 pounds. The aftermath was a media storm and a landmark legal case. Her parents and the 2 priests were charged and ultimately convicted of negligent homicide for failing to provide medical care. They were sentenced to 6 months in jail, suspended, with 3 years of probation. But what was really happening to Anneliese Michel? Was this a clear-cut case of demonic forces at war for a young woman's soul? Or was it the catastrophic failure of both medical and religious systems to save a profoundly ill person? The court that convicted her parents and the priests sided with a scientific explanation. Medical experts who testified stated that Annalisa was not possessed, but was suffering from a combination of her diagnosed epilepsy and severe psychosis. They argued that her so-called possession was a manifestation of her mental illness, amplified by her intensely religious upbringing. This is a phenomenon sometimes called doctrinaire induction, where the content of a person's psychosis is fed by the beliefs of those around them. The more she was treated as if she were possessed, the more her delusions conformed to that narrative. Her aversion to religious symbols, for instance, could be seen not as a demonic reaction, but a psychological one, rooted in a strict upbringing where those objects were tied to punishment and control. Some have theorized the multiple demons she spoke as could be explained by a dissociative condition, where an individual fractures into multiple identities, though most experts point to symptoms of schizophrenia or severe psychotic episodes. The bizarre and self-harming behaviors align with these diagnoses. From a clinical perspective, the true tragedy of Annalise Michel is that she was caught between two worlds. Her family, seeing psychiatric treatments fail, embraced a supernatural explanation that ultimately led them to abandon life-saving medical care. The court ruled that her death was preventable, even just a week before she died. The dark side here isn't just the horror of her symptoms, but the horror of a young woman suffering from treatable, though complex, mental and neurological disorders, who was allowed to starve to death in the belief that it would save her soul. Part 3. The Modern Enigma. The Devil Made Me Do It. Just a few years later, across the Atlantic in Brookfield, Connecticut, another case would blur these same lines and challenge the American legal system. This is the story of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, which became famous as the Devil Made Me Do It case. The story didn't start with Arnie Johnson, but with an 11-year-old boy named David Glatzel, the younger brother of Johnson's fiancée, Debbie. In 1980, David began showing disturbing behavior. According to his family, he would speak in strange voices, recite passages from the Bible and Milton's Paradise Lost, and had unexplained scratches and bruises on his body. He claimed to see visions of an old man who appeared as a demonic beast and threatened to steal his soul. Terrified, the Glatzel family enlisted the help of self-proclaimed demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens concluded the boy was possessed and helped organize a series of exorcisms with several priests. Arnie Johnson was there for these rites. According to eyewitnesses, during one session, Johnson started to taunt the alleged demon, shouting, "Take me on, leave the little lad alone." Those present claimed that in that moment, the entity seemed to transfer from David into Arnie. In the months that followed, Johnson's behavior changed. He would fall into trance-like states, growl, and later claim to have no memory of what happened. Everything came to a horrific head on February 16, 1981. During a heated argument with his landlord, Alan Bono, Arnie Johnson pulled out a 5-inch pocket knife and stabbed him repeatedly. Bono died from his injuries. It was the first recorded murder in the town's 193-year history. When arrested, Johnson claimed he couldn't remember the event at all. His lawyer, Martin Manila, put forward a defense that had never been tried before in a U.S. court. He argued that Arnie Johnson was not guilty by reason of demonic possession. The claim was simple and shocking. The devil made him do it. In Johnson's case, the judge ultimately rejected the possession defense, stating that such a claim could never be proven in a court of law and was therefore infeasible. The defense had to switch to a claim of self-defense. Arnie Johnson was eventually convicted of first-degree manslaughter and served 5 years of a 10 to 20-year sentence. But the case left a permanent mark, forcing a modern legal system to confront a belief as old as humanity. Supporters of the supernatural view argue that simply dismissing these accounts as psychological is a form of scientific tunnel vision that ignores a frightening spiritual reality. They contend that while mental illness is real, so is the potential for evil to act as an external force on the vulnerable. The stories of Annalise Michel and Arne Johnson leave us with two terrifying possibilities. On one side, we have the dark side of supernatural evil, a world of malevolent entities that can invade and destroy human lives. On the other, we see the dark side of human suffering, the profound trauma inflicted by mental illness, and the tragic consequences that happen when belief overtakes medicine. Annalise Michel's story is a harrowing reminder of what can happen when a person suffering from severe psychological and neurological distress is denied medical care in favor of a spiritual cure. Arne Johnson's case forced the modern world to ask whether a person can truly be held responsible for actions committed while allegedly under the control of another entity. Both stories force us to confront the terrifying blur between these two worlds. They show us that whether the demon is a literal entity or a metaphor for the darkest corners of the human psyche, the outcome is often the same: destruction, suffering, and death. This leaves us with a deeply unsettling question. When we encounter such profound darkness, where do you believe it truly comes from? A world beyond our own, or from within the tragic, complex, and often fragile confines of the human mind?